Otis, a miner in Red Creek, keeps working after many hours because he wants gold so badly. At that moment, there is a total moon eclipse, and the mines start to shake. When Otis touches the bright hole he made, his hand gets on fire. A black cloud suddenly comes out of the hole and takes over Otis, burning a circle on his chest and turning his eyes black. A month later, in Wyoming, Sheriff Roy goes to the train stop to get his daughter Charlotte and her fiancé Angus. Roy doesn't like Angus and thinks his daughter deserves better, but Charlotte begs him to let it go because Angus makes her feel happy and safe. 5 thieves, led by Zeke, show up at the gathering and try to take as many innocent people as possible. Roy hides Charlotte inside the station, and then he hides behind a pile of bags to join the gunfight. Zeke appears behind him, and Roy shoots him quickly. When Roy rolls under the train to get the others, he is shot from behind by a mysterious figure. Roy shows up in a strange office seconds later and throws up in a bucket. Hano is the name of the woman who greets him. She tells him that Roy has died and gone to heaven, but she also tells him that Charlotte is fine. The RIPD, or Rest in Peace Department, is in charge of this office. Hano has been hired as one of their spies. The RIPD is God's police force, and their job is to find deados, which are the souls of the dead that avoid judgment and cause trouble on Earth by taking over normal people. Then Hano takes Roy to the armory. Roy is surprised by the quality of the weapons, but he still likes to use his favorite gun. Hano, on the other hand, says that only RIPD's holy tools can kill deados. After Roy picks a gun, he looks down and sees a snake symbol. Hano tells Roy that this is the Ouroboros, which means life, death, and return. When a deados takes over someone, this sign will show up on their chest. Hano tells Roy that his first task is to check out a strange presence that showed up in Red Creek during the eclipse. He also reminds him that going back to Earth means sticking to the case and not getting payback for his death. Roy still agrees, and the deal is sealed when he spits on his hand and shakes Hano's. At that time, Roy's chest starts to burn as the RIPD sign is burned into his skin. After that, Hano puts Roy in a machine that sends him back to Earth. Roy comes out of a portable bathroom and throws up again in a bucket. He then steps back to avoid a group of bison that are running by. Then he tries to step out, but the last bison that was left behind runs over him. A woman and 2 horses appear next to Roy all of a sudden. This is Jean, another RIPD member who will be working on the Eclipse case with Roy. Roy likes to work by himself, but Jean tells him that orders are orders. Roy is still not convinced, so he gets on his horse and goes away. Zeke and his group are robbing a bank at the same time, but instead of getting the money, they are taking more people hostage. Robber Slim keeps making mistakes, which drives Zeke crazy because the other 4 robbers are his brothers, but Slim is an adopted child. When the police show up, shooting breaks out, and Slim has no way to protect himself. Back to Roy, he goes home to see his daughter, but just as he's about to call her, the phone rings. Jean pulls him away when he calls out Charlotte's name through the window. Roy is so angry that he starts fighting Jean and finds that his reflexes are much better than when he was living. When both spies pull out their weapons at the same time, and Jean uses her sword to show Roy his image, the fight ends in a tie. Roy doesn't look the same anymore. He and Charlotte look like 2 black women to other people. Roy finds out that he was buried next to his wife and that dogs ate his body after he was shot. Jean tells him that it would be too confusing for humans to see the dead coming back, so the illusion protects their identities. Roy thinks that being a black woman will make his job harder because of racism and sexism. Jean tells Roy that if God picked that illusion, it's because he wants Roy to learn something. As a cover, they agree to say they are bounty hunters. Finally, she tells Roy that if he tries to talk to his family, everything he says will sound like gibberish. Roy's best friend Henry walks up with flowers for the graves and stops them in the middle of their talk. Roy acts like he can't talk while Jean and Henry talk, even though it's hard for him to hear what Henry has to say about him, both good and bad. Then Henry tells them what's going on in town right now. The bandits have taken Angus hostage, and while 3 of them were caught at the bank, 2 are still on the run. When she tells him that this isn't his job, Jean scolds him. Where Angus was from them. Roy is also confused because he shot Zeke back at the station. He doesn't know why Henry said there are 2 thieves left. When the guards stop the carriage to go to the bathroom, Jean sees that the bandits have the Ouroboros sign on their chests. This means that this is part of the task, and she can help after all. Jean asks the marshals for help because his sister is hurt, so two of the marshals follow her to where Roy is claiming to be asleep. Before going after the guards on horses, both spies attack and knock out the ones on foot. The drivers see the danger and run away, but Roy holds onto the carriage and jumps on its roof. One of the agents shoots him and thinks he killed him. When they stop to check, Roy scares one of them by pretending to be a ghost, and Jean knocks out the other one. Roy tries to open the cage, but can't. Jean then uses holy water on one of the bandits to make the Diado pop out of the cage in a painful way. The thief changes into a huge black monster that breaks out of the cage and tries to attack, but Roy shoots it with his special gun right away. Roy is surprised by the second robber, who takes his gun. Jean kills him quickly and grabs the third robber, who turns out to be Slim. While Jean is taking Slim to be questioned, Roy finds a bunch of wanted signs and learns that Slim is wanted for killing him. Roy is so angry that he hits Slim, who doesn't seem to know him, and says he's being set up because he never shot anyone. Roy wants to kill him, but Jean tells him they need him to get information from him. Then Jean squirts just a drop of holy water on Slim to hurt him before stopping the popping with her cross. Slim finally opens his mouth and says that a powerful bad guy named Otis has told the robbers to take people from all over and bring them to Red Creek. Slim doesn't know what his secret plan is. All he knows is that people are being locked up. He also says how Otis came to have a RIPD gun. Jean and Roy decide to go to Red Creek to find out what's going on. They tie Slim to the horses before they leave. Roy shoots him with his regular gun whenever he tells a bad joke, which is just a tickling for a Diado. A woman named Nell tells Otis that Zeke has added more people to the group of prisoners, but the thieves are starting to doubt Otis' origin and don't believe he is who he says he is. Otis says that he got out of limbo through a broken piece of the gateway because it was weak during the eclipse. The humans they have kidnapped must keep digging because if he ends his plan before the blood moon comes, he will make the gateway weak forever and rule the earth. After that, Otis goes to see how the new prisoners are doing and talks to Zeke, who still doesn't trust him. Otis punishes him by taking the Diado inside him and shooting it with his RIPD gun. The other Deados are now scared enough to follow him without question. After a few hours, Roy and Jean gets to Reed Creek. They hide Slim's face so that the picture doesn't give him away. The group is shocked to see that the town is almost empty and that most of the people who are there look sick. Even if they are sick, Mayor Julius makes them work, and they are so focused on staying alive that they don't even notice when two black women show up. Then, the group goes to the hotel to check in, but for some reason, the mayor is working at the front desk. He points to the sign that says they don't let black people in, but Roy threatens him with his gun until Julius burns the sign. Jean turns around because fire makes her PTSD come back to life. After that, Julius calls the maid Beverly and acts like he's really nice to women and black people. He then asks Beverly to walk their new clients to their room. Roy and Jean ask Beverly in the bedroom what's going on. Beverly says it's been going on for a month. They don't know what's wrong with them and nobody believes Julius when he says it has to do with the water source. Everyone left last night when they heard that gold had been found in the mines. Since then, the town has been empty. Roy and Jean agree that Julius must know something after Beverly leaves. Jean points to the mines and says that's where they'll find the answers. When it comes to the mines, all of the kidnapped people who work there wear masks so they don't get sick from the dirty air. When a man loses awareness, his daughter thinks about giving him her mask, but Angus tells her that taking it off means death. He shows this by taking off his own, which makes his whole body start shaking right away. Then Angus puts on his mask again and tells the woman that her father just needs to rest. Back at the hotel, Julius is also feeling bad. He's coughing up blood, so he opens the drawer of his desk to get a pair of scissors and cuts a piece of the curtain to cover it up. Julius runs out of the building to see Otis and asks for a mask as a gift for all the help he has been giving. He forgot to lock his desk again. Otis gives him a mask after he begs a lot, but he tells him that only his workers get masks. So, Otis's men push Julius into a cart and tie him up. Slim can't get away, so Roy and Jean tie him to a bathtub. Slim tries to persuade them that they can believe him because when he was living, he was just a thief and not a murderer or someone else who did really bad things. To prove it, he takes Roy's gun when he gets close but lets him have it back, saying that he could have shot them both but didn't. Roy wonders if the real Slim could still be alive inside the body, but Jean says that's impossible and that the Diado is controlling them. When Slim says that the people who were stolen were brought to the church, Roy and Jean go there. When Jean sees a church in ruins, she remembers her old life. The place is empty, but Roy finds an item of Angus's clothes, which shows that he must be nearby. Then they hear screams, so the two of them run outside and find Julius in the carriage. Julius tells them that Otis has taken everyone in town to the mine. He also said something about opening a gateway. Jean finally figures out that they are digging a hole into hell and that the deadly gas that comes out of the hole is what makes people sick. When the hole is big enough, all the souls of the damned will come out and take over everyone on Earth. The guys who work for Otis walk in on their talk and start a fight. Roy and Jean try to defend themselves as best they can, but they are severely outnumbered and are soon defeated. At the same time, Beverly is also sick. When she brings Julius his tea, she sees that the curtain has a hole and that the box is open. This shows her that there is a special order for the printing press. Shocked, Beverly goes to Roy's room and frees Slim, showing him that he really was set up and that Julius paid off the press people to make fake signs. At that moment, Beverly starts coughing up blood, so Slim gets her a mask as a thank you for letting him go free. Before he leaves to help the RIPD, he also shows her the secret mask stash in the church. Roy and Jean are put in a cell in the mines after their guns are taken away. Nell knows Jean from back in the day, and Jean tells Roy that Nell used to be an RIPD agent, but she went bad. This is why Otis has a gun that shoots RIPD. A guard brings Angus to the cell at that moment, but Angus tries to fight the man off. More guards come and quickly beat him up, but Roy is still pleased and says he was wrong about Angus. Roy gets Angus to talk about his marriage by pretending to be a sweet woman. He then tells Angus that dads sometimes worry that their daughters' boyfriends are trying to replace them or that they won't be left alone. Angus tells him that was never his plan and that he has always had a lot of respect for Roy. Roy gives Angus a picture of Charlotte that he always has with him because he was moved by what Charlotte said. At midnight, the doorway finally starts to break, and Otis tells Nell to bring all the prisoners to the starting point of the routine. Everyone but Roy and Jean is taken out of their cell by the guards, and Nell and Otis come to make fun of them for failing. Otis tells them they'll be the last ones thrown into the pit before the gap closes. Before going, Nell calls Jean Joan d'Arc. Roy finally figures out that Jean is a famous historical person and gets why she is so afraid of fire. He is also proud that he had to work with her. When Otis tells the prisoners to stop digging, the door to hell finally opens. Damned souls start to escape and take over anyone they can to turn them into deados. Angus stays away from them as long as he can and helps other people escape the mines. Back to Jean, she tells Roy that they need to put out the hellfire before they can close the gate. She found a bottle with the tears of Christ when she was still alive, so they can use that if they manage to get away. At that time, Slim walks up, and since Slim is meant to be one of them, the guards let him take Roy's gun. But he is just acting and kills one of the guards with the gun. The other person starts fighting him and drops Jean's sword by mistake. Jean reaches through the bars to pick it up and kills the guard. Then Slim shows Roy the proof that he was set up and asks Jean for a redo for his soul because he doesn't think he deserves hell. The agents agree to believe him, and Slim sets them free. Now they have to come up with a plan. Jean wants Roy to throw the tears into the gateway because she can't go near fire since she died, but Roy refuses because the tears picked her. After leaving the tears with Jean, Roy, and Slim, fake Slim is holding Roy prisoner and goes to the mines. Roy tries to shoot Otis when they see him, but the damned souls stand in front of him and guard him. Then they start shooting at the deados, and Roy asks Slim to help Angus and the other humans who are still alive get out of there while he fights. Jean also joins the fight, and right before a Diado charges Julius, she kills one of them. Roy is jumped on by another enemy, who makes him roll toward the gate and hold him there. Jean sees the fire and starts having flashbacks of her death, but her need to protect people is stronger, so she jumps over the doorway to drop the tears into the hole and kill the Diado that is holding Roy. The portal starts closing right away, pulling Nell and all the other damned souls back inside. Roy and Jean hold onto her sword so they don't get taken, while Slim and the humans grab onto the cell bars. The spies think it's all over, but then Otis shows up and changes into his real form. It turns out he's Azeroth, the right hand of the devil, which is why he's so powerful. He uses his skills right away to hit Roy and Jean, which makes Jean cry. The two people fight Azeroth with holy weapons, but even those don't hurt him enough, and Azeroth quickly captures them. Jean uses her cross to make him drop them, and Roy finds the vial of tears on the ground while Azeroth is busy fighting her. He doesn't waste any time. He puts Azeroth's tears in his gun and shoots him, killing him for good. By the time everyone gets back to town and sees their loved ones again, the sun is up. Slim finds Julius hidden and forces him to tell the truth. He ran away when Otis came to town and thought the bandits were looking for him when he met them. Julius shot Roy because he thought he was a member of the gang. Zeke then took Roy away. Zeke was already dead when Roy shot him, so the bullet didn't hurt him. Roy thinks that this town needs a new sheriff to keep an eye on things, and Beverly picks Slim for the job if she can be the deputy. When Roy agrees, Beverly sends Julius to jail with him. Then, Roy and Jean agree to let Slim stay here until his hearing since he has shown himself to be honest. Roy and Jean then go to Charlotte. Angus' wedding. Roy knows he can't talk to Charlotte, but for some reason, he now talks nonsense to Angus as well. Jean wishes them well, and when Roy gives Charlotte a hug, Charlotte feels like she's known that woman her whole life. When they leave town, Jean tells them that because Roy now likes Angus, he's also become a loved one, which is why Angus's speech was nonsense. The two people then go back to the portable toilet to get to the RIPD building. Roy says that the task was fun, but he's ready for his soul to move on to the future, which makes Jean laugh. It turns out that agents have to stay in their jobs for 100 years before they can leave. Roy is angry but also wants to keep working with Jean, so he steps into the portable toilet, only to be hit by a bison again. Share your thoughts in the comments, give us a like and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next videos.